know that there's a single place in the entire world that throughout all of history has been referred to as the city on seven hills? And that's also Rome.
All right, what we're about to witness is probably some of the goofiest and loose-handed Bible interpretation I have ever heard. Taco, you continually outdo yourself, so congratulations for being a negative example ongoingly throughout your TikTok career. So, of course, if you go back and watch a video, he thinks that the Catholic Church is the whore of Babylon from Revelation chapter 17, and he brings up all of these similarities between the Catholic Church and the whore of Babylon in Revelation 17 to try and demonstrate this. Now, the first thing I want to say before actually dealing with his exact kind of correlations that he notices is that many evangelicals kind of have this default view of Revelation that they're just going to assume that what they're reading is futuristic. And I'm not saying there is not future predictions, or I'm not saying there are no future predictions in Revelation, but John at the beginning and the end makes it clear that the things that he is saying are to come to pass soon. And so our default when reading the book of Revelation should be a historic view, not a futurist view. Even though there is some future predictions in the book of Revelation, we should be more oriented towards the historic view. All right, so his first point is that this whore of Babylon is built on seven hills. And this is so goofy, guys. I'm going to giggle a little bit because it's bad. And then he says, you know what is built and has always been called the city that is built on seven hills? Rome. Yeah, not the Catholic Church, Rome. And I know people colloquially call like the Vatican Church like Rome. It's the church in Rome, but the Vatican and the church in Rome is built on the opposite side of the river as Rome, and it's not built on the seven hills. It's built on a hill. It's called Vatican Hill, but it has nothing to do with the seven hills that Rome is built upon. So this is just lame. This is lazy. This is you trying to mislead thousands of people, and you are culpable for your mistakes. And I'm not sure that what you're doing, if you're not lying, is any better than lying. This objection, the more you think about it, it gets dumber, because in the first century, there's a church in Rome. And so just because there's a church in Rome doesn't mean that there's some connection between that church and the whore of Babylon. Like, was the church in Rome that was in the first century that Paul wrote his book to, was that the whore of Babylon? I don't think so. So this correlation is meaningless, and you need to do better. It's weak, man. I mean, it's embarrassingly weak, and it is embarrassing corporately as a Christian.
Now you see this beast, you see this woman who is adorned in jewelry, and she is holding a golden chalice, and in this chalice contains abominable things and the blood of the saints. Can you think of a religion that has a infatuation with drinking blood out of a chalice? Blood.
All right, the second thing is that Rome is, or the whore of Babylon, I mean, he's already called it Rome, so we can call it Rome, is drunk on the blood of saints. So there's martyrdom happening. Can you think of any time in history where we got Rome established on seven hills, and that establishment is drunk on the blood of saints? Does that sound like the early church at all? No. Sounds like the Catholic Church. And it sounds like the Catholic Church because who else do we know that likes drinking blood? The Catholics. This is such a weak correlation. First of all, in communion, when we accept the chalice, it's not the blood of the saints. You've just misrepresented Catholicism. It's not the blood of the saints. It's the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Christ. So get it right. There is no correlation here. You've just decided that the whore of Babylon is the Catholic Church, and you've gone into the text and drawn as many connections as you can. This is not a connection. This is a very good connection between imperial pagan Rome in the early church, particularly the first and the second century. But it has nothing to do with the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church does not drink or pretend to drink the blood of martyrs.
Ones whom, they have scarlets, and they have purple, and they're literally adorned in jewels.
I got to give it to you, man. This one's a good one. You've really outdone yourself. The harlot is wearing red and purple, and some clergymen do wear purple, and other clergymen, some of them, they wear red. You got me. Man. I'm going to have to not be Catholic because some of the clergy were red. Man, this is just too powerful for my faith. But on a more serious note, you show a picture of Pope Benedict and then say she was wearing jewels. Like Pope Benedict was wearing jewels. He was wearing his mitre and his vestments. There were no jewels in that picture. I mean, can you zoom in on your phone? Does it have that feature? You could have looked closer. Maybe there was like a better shot. Maybe like the picture didn't have high enough resolution and you just didn't check. I don't know. But again, weak.
That the great harlot had committed sexual immorality with the kingdoms and the kings of the earth. So it's an unnatural relationship between the kings of the earth and this which has kingdom over the kings, a shadow government.
This I find to be a weird objection. The church ought to be ruling. It should be, because those of us who are Christians and the church are justified by Christ, and we have the grace of Christ, and we ought to have the love of Christ. We are the best disposed to be in leadership. And as a Christian, you should not shy away with that. You want your leadership to be Christian. And you should not be like psyched out because there have been times in history when the Catholic Church was in charge. I'd like that to happen again. The Bible even seems to make it clear that this is the plan that Christ has for the church when the scriptures say that instead of going to a local judge and ruining your testimony over small claims and small disputes, just figure out the matter between yourselves in the church, because at some point you will be ruling the world. And so the Bible isn't against this idea that Christianity and the church is going to be like the established authority at some point. It's not a big deal. It's not. This is not a correlation. It just makes me laugh. It's like a Matrix type beat. Shadow government. The church is the shadow government. Don't you believe in submitting to your pastor? Like George Bush claimed to be a Christian. Didn't you think that George Bush should have like submitted to his pastor? I mean, isn't that a value that Protestants have? Or are you like really that nuda or solo scriptura? I don't know. This seems like a really stupid objection.
God has remembered her iniquities. Pay her back even as she paid, and give her back double according to her deeds. In the cup which she has mix double for her. To the degree that she has glorified herself and lives sensuously, to the same degree give her torment and mourning, for she says in her heart, I sit as a queen, and I am not a widow, and will never see mourning.
I just want to pause here because this is negative aura. This is like negative 3,000 aura. I mean, you've already made the worst case in history that the Catholic Church is the whore of Babylon. And then you get this worked up. It's like, where is she? Kind of doing that while you're reading the Bible. And I don't know, maybe this would be moving if there was any ounce of honesty in what you were saying. But it's so obviously false. It's so obviously just not it that I think it just comes off as it's like some secondhand embarrassment.
God bless, and come out of her, my people. If you're Catholic, get out. Become a Christian.
Just kidding. Actually, everything you said here was baloney. I am not compelled in any way to leave the church on the basis of some of the worst biblical interpretation that I have heard in my life. Taco, you're on the stand. You're like maybe like number 2. You've won the silver for treating the Bible and profaning the scripture with interpretation that is so bad. I don't even know what to tell you, Taco. I don't even know what to tell you. I would trust a Jehovah's Witness to interpret scripture better than this. Anyways, God bless. My 3-year-old can interpret scripture better than this. Have a good day and stay safe from heresy.